You're living someone else's life. That sounds dramatic, like something a mysterious guy in a black coat would whisper before disappearing into fog. But it's actually way less poetic and way more uncomfortable. It means that a lot of what you call your life, your choices, your preferences, your goals might not actually be yours. They could be stitched together from expectations, habits, social pressure, and that one comment someone made to you in 2009 that your brain never emotionally processed. In other words, you might be the main character, but the script was ghost written. Let's get right into it. Number 10. Borrow dreams. At some point in your life, you decided what success looks like, or at least you think you did. Nice job, stable income, respectable career, maybe a house with a kitchen island you don't even use. Sounds familiar? Now here's the uncomfortable part. Rewind that decision. Where did it come from? Was it you? Or was it your parents casually saying, you should be a doctor, when you were 8 and still thought glue tasted good? Was it society whispering, this is what winning looks like, through movies, ads, and that one overachieving cousin who somehow owns property? At 23, your brain is extremely efficient at copying things it sees repeatedly. It's called social learning, and it's basically your mind going, well, everyone else seems to want this, so same. So now you're chasing goals that feel important, but somehow hollow, like eating a beautifully decorated cake made entirely of cardboard. And the weirdest part, you don't even question it, because borrowed dreams feel exactly like real ones, until you actually get them and go, wait, that's it. Congratulations, you just spent 10 years speed running someone else's wish list. Number 9. Personality patchwork. You like certain music, certain clothes, certain opinions, but how much of that is actually you? And how much is just a highlight reel of people you've absorbed? Think about it. Humans are basically emotional sponges. With Wi-Fi, we pick up traits from friends' influences, characters, even strangers we saw once and thought they seemed cool. Suddenly your personality becomes this Frankenstein mix of borrowed vibes. You laugh like one friend, argue like another, and secretly base your fashion sense on someone you stalked 3 years ago. Psychology calls this identity diffusion, which is a polite way of saying your sense of self is still buffering, and that's not necessarily bad. It's how humans learn. But here's where it gets weird. If you never stop to filter what you've absorbed, you end up living as a collage instead of a person. You're not choosing who you are, you're curating it. So, when someone asks what are you really like, your brain goes completely silent, like a group chat after someone says, we need to talk, because deep down you're not sure where you end, and everyone else begins. Number 8. The invisible script. Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding to do everything differently, not in a dramatic quit your job and move to Iceland way, but small things. Eat something new, take a different route, say what you actually think, instead of what sounds polite. Feels weird, right? That's because your brain runs on scripts, not literal lines, but patterns of behavior you've repeated so many times. They've become automatic. Wake up, check phone, do the thing, say the expected words, react the expected way. It's efficient, it's predictable, it's also dangerously easy to confuse with, this is just who I am. But most of these scripts weren't consciously chosen, they were installed by your environment, your upbringing, your social circles. It's like your brain is running an operating system you never agreed to download, and every time you follow the script, it reinforces itself. See, your brain says, this is you. This is what you've practiced. The real you might be somewhere underneath all that repetition, quietly waiting for you to miss a cue and improvise. For once right now, you're not living freely. You're just really good at hitting your marks. Number 7. The invisible script. Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding to do everything differently, not in a dramatic quit your job and move to Iceland way, but small things. Eat something new, take a different route, say what you actually think, instead of what sounds polite. Feels weird, right? That's because your brain runs on scripts, not literal lines, but patterns of behavior you've repeated so many times. They've become automatic. Wake up, check phone, Do the thing, say the expected words, react the expected way. It's efficient, it's predictable, it's also dangerously easy to confuse with, this is just who I am. But most of these scripts weren't consciously chosen, they were installed by your environment, your upbringing, your social circles. It's like your brain is running an operating system you never agreed to download, and every time you follow the script, it reinforces itself. See, your brain says, this is you, number, this is what you've practiced. The real you might be somewhere underneath all that repetition, quietly waiting for you to miss a cue and improvise. For once right now, you're not living freely. You are just really good at hitting your marks. Number 6. Autopilot identity. Ever driven somewhere and suddenly realized you don't remember the last 5 minutes? Yeah, your brain does that with your entire life too. It's called autopilot. Your mind builds shortcuts, habits, routines, default reactions, so you don't have to consciously think about everything, which is great for survival, terrible for self-awareness, because while you're busy being efficient, you're also being absent. You say the same phrases, make the same choices, react the same way, not because you decided to, but because your brain went, we've done this before, let's not waste energy reinventing it. And slowly your identity becomes a loop, not a personality, a playlist. The scary part, autopilot feels like control. It feels like this is just me, but in reality, it's just repetition disguised as authenticity. You're not choosing your life moment to moment, you're replaying it. As 0 years pass, and one day you wake up and think, how did I get here? Answer, you didn't. You drifted here, your brain drove, you just sat in the passenger seat, occasionally pretending to steer. Number 5. Social mirror syndrome. Put a human in a room alone, and they're one version of themselves. Now add another person, suddenly they shift. Add a group, now we are shape-shifting. Humans are wired to mirror others. It's called the chameleon effect, and it helps with social bonding. You subtly copy tone, posture, even beliefs just to vibe better, which is cute, until you realize you don't have a stable default. Around different people, you become different versions of yourself, more serious here, more sarcastic there, slightly dumber in one group, slightly more impressive in another. It's like your personality has multiple tabs open, and each one thinks it's the main one. And none of them are fake exactly, they're just adaptive. But if you spend enough time adjusting to everyone else, you stop asking a very important question. What am I like when no one's watching? Not performing, not adjusting, not calibrating your responses, like a social thermostat, just you. Because if your identity only exists in reaction to others, then you're not really living your own life. You're just reflecting everyone else's. Basically, you've become a very emotionally advanced mirror. Number 4. The achievement trap. Let's say you finally get what you've been working toward, the job, the recognition, the thing you thought would make everything click. You expect fireworks, internal peace, a cinematic moment, where you look out a window and feel complete. Instead, you feel mildly satisfied for like 2 days, then your brain goes, okay, what's next? This is called hedonic adaptation, your brain's ability to normalize everything, even the stuff you thought would change your life. But here's the twist. If your goals were never truly yours to begin with, the emptiness hits even harder, because now you've achieved something, and it didn't fix anything. It's like climbing a ladder, reaching the top, and realizing it's leaning against the wrong wall. You didn't fail, you succeeded incorrectly, and now you're stuck in this weird loop, where you keep chasing the next milestone, hoping this one will finally feel right. But it won't, because the problem isn't the goal. It's that you're playing a game you didn't choose, and your brain knows it even if you don't. So it rewards you just enough to keep going, but never enough to feel done. Congratulations, you've unlocked endless side quests in someone else's story. Number 3. The comfort cage is something fun. Your brain prefers familiar misery over unfamiliar happiness. Yes, really, you could be stuck in a routine that drains you, a lifestyle that doesn't excite you, even relationships that feel off, and your brain will still go, yeah, let's keep this. Why? Because it's predictable. Your brain isn't designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you safe, and safe often just means known. So even if a different life would suit you better, it also feels risky, uncertain, weird, and your brain hates weird. So you stay, you rationalize, you tell yourself this is fine, in the same tone as someone sitting in a burning room. with a cup of coffee. This is how people live entire lives, inside comfort cages, structures built from habits, expectations, and low-level fear. Not because they love it, but because leaving would mean stepping into the unknown version of themselves, and that version hasn't been approved. So instead, you stay in a life that fits just enough, like wearing shoes that are slightly too tight forever. Number 2. The memory illusion. Your past feels like solid evidence of who you are. I've always been like this. I'm just not that kind of person. That's not me, but your memory isn't a recording. It's a storyteller with a bias. Every time you recall something, your brain slightly rewrites it. It simplifies, edits, and reinforces whatever narrative you currently believe. So if you think you're shy, your brain highlights every awkward moment and quietly deletes the times you weren't that. If you think you're not creative, it conveniently forgets every creative thing you've ever done. Over time, you build a character profile based on selective evidence, and then you live according to it. You don't try certain things, not because you can't, but because your internal story says, that's not who we are. So now, your future is being limited by a version of the past that isn't even accurate, that you're basically being typecast in your own life by your own unreliable narrator. And the worst part, you trust it completely. Number 1. The default life. If you do nothing, no big decisions, no intentional changes, your life will still go somewhere. It'll follow a path, a very specific one. School, work, routine, milestones, repeat, not because you chose it, but because it's the default setting. Society has a template. It's efficient. It's widely accepted. It requires minimal questioning. And if you never pause to ask, do I actually want this, you'll just slide into it. No resistance, no awareness, just momentum. This is the default life. It's not necessarily bad. It's just unexamined, but here's the catch. Once you're deep enough into it, changing direction,